So let us start by singing a song, right? Would you like to repeat after me? There is nobody. Repeat this. There is nobody who will catch hold of my hand and throw into heaven. Similarly, there is nobody who will catch hold of my leg and drag into hell. My happiness and my suffering is in my hand. Make sure I don't cheat myself. Now you can sing. Yeah, I think this is a very important teaching written by a Tibetan master who says there is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven, thereby any other higher state of well-being. Nobody can do that. Similarly, there is nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Like in Tibet, hundreds and thousands of Tibetans were imprisoned by the Chinese government, but they could not control their mind. So people can imprison us physically, torture us physically, but nobody can touch your mind. So it is in this context that your happiness and your suffering is in your hand. Choice is yours. Meaning that if you have proper control over your mind, nobody can really torture you or make you suffer. This is a very, very important point. If you read some of the stories of people who experienced amazing problem, unbelievable problem in the concentration camps, and how some of them managed to come out alive is just a miracle. Read those stories. So it's really, then of course how much you are able to tolerate or face a challenge is very much dependent upon how strong is your mind, how good is your mental training. I met one monk, Tibetan monk. I met several prisons, but one monk who remained in Chinese prison for 17 years. He knew His Holiness before they separated. So after 17 years of Chinese imprisonment, when he came back, His Holiness called him. And then His Holiness asked him, since you have been in the prison for so many years, on several occasions you must have faced great risk. Did you? And he said, yes, Your Holiness. On few occasions I faced risk. So His Holiness thought, must be risk of his life. Was that risk of your life? He said, no. The risk of forgetting compassion for the Chinese torturers. He was not thinking about his problem. He was thinking, this right now I am having problem, but these torturers, they will also have to bear the consequences of wrongdoing. Nobody can escape that. This is the beauty of the teaching. You see, you think you are the winner, you are the torturer, but there is what we call as the law of karma. You can't escape law of karma. You will have to bear the consequences of your wrongdoing. So he was worried more about these people, the torturers, suffering as the consequences of torturing him. So he said, I face the risk of losing compassion for the Chinese torturers. So this shows the training of the mind, you see. And when you really have this great sense of responsibility and care and concern and love for everybody, including the torturers, the whole way of dealing with these people completely undergoes a big change, big shift. For example, with your beloved family members and children, because you love them, right? So even when they occasionally does something wrong, which of course they do, we are all ordinary human beings, and on occasions you might pick up a fight with them also, that also happens, right? But still you live together. Why? Because you have love. The love is of course contaminated, alloyed, not perfect, but still there is love. Love minimizes fault. When you love somebody, you don't see much fault in that person. When you love His Holiness, you don't see fault in him. He says, oh, so His Holiness, okay, perfect. Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, as we say. Right? So these qualities, the only problem is, as I said, we are unable to practice, we are unable to develop. If we are able to develop, then there is really not much room for hatred, discrimination with all kinds of sentient beings, especially among the human beings. Because number one, we are all living on the same planet, doing our small bits of jobs here and there to earn livelihood and live. That's all, right? Right? And then one day we'll all go, die. So why so much fuss in between? Why this discrimination? This discrimination is there because we don't have the larger perspective, as I was saying this morning. We don't have the bigger picture, don't have the understanding. Right? So therefore, understanding the way things are, you call it impermanence, call it suffering, call it interdependent origination, call it emptiness, that understanding is so crucial. For example, the sun, when it shines, does it make discrimination? Does it say that I will shine only on the Tibetans and not on the Chinese? Or when there is an earthquake, does it say that I will shake only few classes of people, not everybody? Does it make discrimination? Or the COVID-19, did it make discrimination? We, the stupid human beings, have been making discrimination. My country, his country, shoot them, kill them, this, that. When COVID-19 came, everybody was on the same level. And on normal occasions, we are so proud, I'm the most powerful country, I'm the most developed country, I have the most sophisticated technological, advancement, this, that. But when this invisible thing, COVID-19 came, where was our power? Where was our intelligence? How many people died? And how many people are still suffering as a result of that vaccination or whatever? We forget these things. We should have learned some lesson during the COVID-19. After a while we forget. Then the same hi, he, who, and then forget. Right? And then at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, we are all going to die. So why don't you enjoy and live harmoniously within this short period of time? That is why the Buddha, after getting enlightened, the first teaching that he gave was on impermanence and suffering. First teaching. And these days, in line with his teaching, and in order to provoke people a little bit, I tell them, look, we have right now over 8 billion human population, right? All this over 8 billion human population, all this over 8 billion human population are dead after 100 years counting from today. I'm not saying a few hundred, few thousand. All this over 8 billion human population are dead. All dead after 100 years counting from today. Are you with me? Is this true? Is this true?
Yes.
I am not saying all this over 8 billion human population will be killed by nuclear bomb, ballistic missile. All these are as if adding fuel to the fire, they're all there. But even otherwise, our lifespan is around 100 years, which most of people don't make it. But even if we make it, you all look very nice, so I have given you some discount. Some discount. So even after giving discount, let us say we live 100 years, but after 100 years we are all dead. That doesn't mean we all live 100 years. I live another maybe, if I'm lucky, 20 years or 10 years. My days and years are numbered. I need to know this. You need to know this. Why? That will provoke us. That will that will make us understand the reality, what reality is. Therefore, understanding the reality, experiencing challenges and sufferings will wake you up and tell you the truth. Right? So now this is number one, accepting the reality. In my case, 10, 20 years. In some other cases, 30 years. Depending upon how old you are. This is very important to meditate. When you meditate on this, then you get the sense that, okay, how should I use this remaining years or months? Fighting, exploitation, bullying, by remaining arrogant, by polluting the air and water. Doesn't make sense at all. When you think like that, then it makes sense how these destructive, negative emotions are, negative. When you understand this, when you understand the reality, then it will help you lessen your negative emotions, anger, jealousy, hatred, etc. When you understand the reality, we are all going to die after 100 years or after a few years, then it doesn't make sense to develop too much obsession with somebody, to develop too much obsession with some material facilities, to develop extreme enmity and hatred to others. It doesn't make sense. For example, to make this point more clear, for example, if it's 100% sure if I'm going to die tonight, does it make sense that I fight with you? Does it make sense? Does it make sense that I think about marrying somebody? Huh?
It's an important part of life, right? Love.
I'll catch you later. I'm not saying the normal human relation is bad or anything like that. We are talking about the source of long-lasting happiness. In that connection I'm talking. And I normally give this example. For example, how understanding the reality, way things are, help you develop positive emotions and help you reduce the negative emotions. For example, on this very table in front of me, let us say, this is not big enough, but let us say I have a big table in front of me and there are two elderly people, one woman, one man lying there. Both are over 90 years old, both are very sick and have wounds with pusses oozing out, blood oozing out, something like this here in front of me. Will I develop attachment to them? Saying that if you are a man, will you say, I want to marry this woman? If you're a woman, then saying, I want to marry this man, will you say something like that? Why not?
They're gonna go soon.
Huh?
They're gonna go soon.
Why not? Why not think?
Because you're not biologically attracted.
Huh?
You're not biologically attracted.
Biologically attracted.
You're not.
So whatever be the reason, I think you will not, unless you are a different bent of mind, for all those with sanity, they will not develop attachment to this. So negative emotions will not come. Probably hatred will also not come. Anger will also not come. But instead there is more likelihood of developing more sense of responsibility, concern, and little bit compassion. Who these elderly people are. Is there anybody taking care of them? Let's give them some water to drink, some food. Let's take them to hospital. Those things come. And we develop so much love for small kids. Why? Because we know their vulnerability. Not so much anger, hatred. You may scold them a little bit, but not so much deep down hatred, anger, because you see them, their innocence, vulnerability. That part of innocence, vulnerability is there with all of us. That's why Buddha calls all of us my children. We think I'm special, I'm very rich, I'm professor, I'm a Geshe. See how many people listening to me, I'm teaching. But Buddha says, come on, my child, little child. See. So therefore, understanding the way things are very, very important. Then you naturally develop this. Then we are living on the same earth. One small home actually. It's not just your small room, This earth is our only home. We are the family members. With those kind of bigger consideration. That's why in Buddhism it repeatedly talks about all sentient beings as mother sentient beings. So it doesn't matter you live 2 days, you live 2 months, you live 2 years. But unfortunate thing is, as I mentioned earlier, we have these 4 misconceptions. What is impermanent, we tend to see it as permanent. And then you start thinking that I'm going to live forever. Now you are thinking, so if I ask, are you going to live forever? Then of course you will say, no, I'm not going to live forever. But this is not what we think in our day-to-day, life, unquestioning life. We think I'm going to live forever. You ask this question to a very, very old man, 90 years or so, are you going to die? He will say, yes, I'm going to die. Are you going to die today? Today maybe not. That's the problem. Everybody thinks I'm going to die one day, but not today. And that continues until you die. And when that continues, then there is grasping of permanence. When there is a grasping permanence and plan to stay long, then you need so many things. And when you need so many things, then you need friends. The more friends you have, the more enemies also you have. So this is how we spend our life. And when you have some friends to enjoy with, some enemies to fight with, then you think, oh, life is colorful. Many people say, what? You want to become monk? So colorless. So if there's attachment, anger, jealousy, fighting, marriage, all these things, then there's a colorful life. So what is taught in Buddhism is not a colorful life, but a stable life. A life where there's not too much ups and downs. In our ordinary life, when we experience some problem, some difficulty, we just get completely deflated. Gubara hota na, gubara, deflated. When we achieve little bit success, we are over the board, over the moon, we get completely inflated, arrogant. Your way of speaking to people changes, your physical gesture changes, your facial expression changes, and then you think that you are the divine being here. You are not going to die easily, And the madness, the extent of madness is such that you, when people call you, you are a hero, you are a very brave man, that stupid fellow will go in front of nuclear bomb, thinking that he will not be destroyed by nuclear bomb, he will not be killed by ballistic missile. But it is evident how many people are killed when they go to war. So it's stupidity, insanity, ignorance, which is manipulated by other insane people, and people unnecessarily suffer. So therefore, the purpose of such reflection and meditation is to bring more sanity and to be able to say no to stupid things and say yes to good things. Right? There's the purpose. So therefore, we have been discussing about the way to listen to the teaching, and the next important point is now when it comes to transforming the mind, understanding this teaching, as much as possible, it has to be systematic, stage by stage. There is no push button enlightenment. एक बटन दबा दिया बिजली आ गया, ऐसा नहीं है. No push button enlightenment, stage by stage. Therefore this text is called the essence of the stages of the path. Stages of the path. Just like the plants, they grow stage by stage. Even house is constructed stage by stage. Now stage by stage means unless you, when you do the spiritual practice, unless you first build the foundation, without building the foundation, if you try to overreach and try to do some tantric practice and so forth, it will be of no benefit. Right? So the foundation is, when you build the foundation, the few things. One, you need to get a good teacher. Now when it comes to getting good teacher, use your brain, use your common sense. Don't jump after some teacher because they are very famous. They are very famous, especially online or something like that. I'm not against people, who are famous, but not just by that. You should yourself go, listen to the teaching, and then if possible also judge the person, just like marriage. You will not marry somebody because she has a good face or he has a good face. No, you will take some time, right? Many times we make a mistake and then later on divorce. It should not be there. With the teachers also, take some time. In some of the Tibetan text it says, judge that teacher for 12 years. That may be too long, but at least do some judgment. Number one, teacher should be somebody who can teach, obviously, who has better knowledge than you. The more important than that is, as I mentioned this morning, more important than that is compassion, who really has a sense of responsibility and concern for the students and the followers, whoever. That should be there. Right? As I mentioned this morning also, I'm going to mention this again. Don't just rush after teachers without examining, because sometimes the teacher may be crooked. That's also possible. He may have learned many things. We all do. We all have learned many things, but that doesn't mean that we become good person. Unless you apply, practice, you don't become a good person. And some teachers may be honest, but they don't know how to teach. For example, there is a line in the Buddhist text which says, once you accept somebody as your teacher, then if you don't follow his teaching, you will go to hell, Vajra hell. This is very scary, right? So this is really a little bit out of the context. So the teacher should be able to explain that in the right context. Otherwise, the teacher, the vulnerable or gullible student might try to follow whatever the teacher says, and then sometimes if the teacher misuses it, still he accepts it, because this is what my teacher told me. So even in the case of your teacher, even in the case of Buddha himself, if you find something which your common sense, which your analytical mind could not understand it, for the time being, don't accept it. You don't have to rebel or reject things like that. No need to follow. I have many stories to tell regarding this, with some difficulties which many students experienced. So that's important. Always use your mind, brain. Okay? That's one thing. And then the Buddha's teaching is based on reason, logic, knowledge and compassion. So use your logic, use your common sense in order to understand the teaching. Okay? So stage by stage training the mind. Now when it comes to training the mind, one of the most important thing is to understand the preciousness of human life. This life that you have obtained, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This life that you have obtained, it will be difficult, at least according to the Buddhist text. It's not easy to obtain this human life again and again. Do you think this is true? Many people say, this is not true. Look at the human population, explosion of human population. People have asked me this question. But when we talk about precious human life, in one sense, yes, everybody's life is precious, but in another sense, precious human life, in a general sense, precious human life means every human life is precious in the sense because you have this amazing human intelligence and human brain, that makes your life precious. But many people misuse this brain, this intelligence, so therefore they lose this preciousness. So therefore very few, actual population may be big, but there are only few who is able to use this brain and intelligence in the right way. So therefore the real number of people whose life we can call precious is, I think, much less. Whatever be the case, number one, you have obtained this very important human life and you can make good use of it, then you can make it really, really precious. Much, much more precious than gold, than dollar, than euro and everything. This is another important point. We always chase material resources, dollar, euro, gold, silver, whatever, and treat this as very, very important. But how many of us are treating these inner resources as the most important resource? So here we need to change our way of thinking a little bit. The external resources, there is no denying the fact that you need these external resources. But these external resources are physical resources, right? Be it water, be it mineral, be it forest, they are physical resources. Physical resources by definition are limited. Unlimited resource तो नहीं है, it's not unlimited, right? Please think about this carefully. So the point that I'm making is, how can we make unlimited material progress from limited resources? At least from my point of view, today people are living, all the governments are living in such a way as if there is no limit to the material resources. With this thinking, with this process of material development, the external material resources, be it forest, be it water, they are depleted. Many countries are now facing shortage of water. It is not something that we should take lightly. It is a question of death and life. Many, if you just Google and see how many places are facing shortage of water. And then you can see the extent of pollution. How many people die because of pollution. This is because of unchecked material greed. And I very often cite Mahatma Gandhi's teaching. There is enough for everybody's need, not enough for everybody's greed. And it is definitely the greed that is destroying the planet today. So here also we are a small number here, but we should try to contribute towards lessening that greed, towards more contentment. Right? Every country talks about, every year they talk about what you call as GDP growth. It's not possible every year. Not possible and not needed. So far the standards of individual life are good, it's not important. The standards of life of individuals should be good. But unfortunately this is happening. So therefore, the point I'm making is, as opposed to these external resources, the internal resources are limited or unlimited? Unlimited. With the external, in order to get this, enjoy these external resources, you have to work like a donkey. You want to construct a house, you are not getting the permission to construct the house, things like that, when it comes to developing these internal resources, is there any government, except some dictatorial government, even they find it difficult to stop what you are developing inside. So it's all yours. And the joke is, where there is a limitation, we go there as if it is unlimited. Where there is no limitation, we get satisfied. I did 5 minutes meditation this morning. Is a big thing, Okay, if I get some time, I'll go there for 5 days Buddhist session. 5 days in a year. And for some people, after 5 years. So we take these things as much less important. I remember this incident very well when he sold us many years back. Maybe now like more than 45-50 years back. When he sold us to Dalai Lama. I was then just a student in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. His Holiness was giving a teaching in the temple for a group from France. So during the question and answer session, there was one French lady, she got up and she said, "Your Holiness, your teaching is very good, but in the West we are so busy. How can we practice it? In the West we are so busy." Then His Holiness said, "It's up to you whether you want to practice or not." Then I thought, His Holiness, today you are a little bit blunt. But he was not blunt, he was making the point. He said, if you feel this is important, you need to find time. So the very, statement that we have no time means we have no time. You have time for every other thing, but not for this. So you're already showing that this is not important. And why this way of looking at development of inner resources as less important? Because, as I mentioned earlier, because we only pay attention to what is visible. Not what is directly visible. The mind, colorless, shapeless, not directly visible. But the problem there is, the one which controls your life is not your body, but your... Are you sure? It is your mind. So your mind is your boss, your mind is your boss. So if your mind is your boss, do you want a good boss or bad boss? As simple as that. When we marry, also make sure husband is good, wife is good. When you move to a different locality, you make sure the neighbor is good. You want good friend, good supporters, good leaders. So out of all the leaders in the world, the most important leader is your mind, for you. Because other leaders, they'll not harass you all the time. But your mind is there with you. Even when you go to bathroom, your mind is there, your boss is there. So you want a good boss, right? So which means you want a good mind. But you want good mind. But right now, unfortunately, the mind which is controlling you right now is predominantly stupid, narrow-minded, unenlightened, selfish. That's your boss. So how are you going to get number one happiness, or especially long-lasting happiness? How are you going to get it? When you are surrounded, cornered 24 hours by a stupid, negative, selfish, narrow-minded boss. Don't take these lines lightly. If you think and practice, it will change your life. So now when we say, I am going to do Buddhist practice, Dharma practice, what you are going to say is, I am going to elect a new leader. The old leader, predominantly selfish, negative, brought me all these problems. Now I want to do an election and change the boss and elect a new boss. So here in this case, I'm simplifying it, so we have only two parties. The party of positive emotion and party of negative emotion, as simple as that, which I already mentioned. So right now, the boss which is controlling you in your mind, which I said negative mind, is the boss which is already in the headquarters of your mind is President and Prime Minister is the President is self-cherishing attitude. The Prime Minister is ignorance, self-grasping we call it. These two are controlling you. And they are supported by all host of ministers, anger, jealousy, hatred, big battalion. They are controlling you. Now you want to change it. When I say you are controlled by two most powerful negative emotions, self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping and ignorance, I compared ignorance as the Prime Minister because he is the one who really executes day-to-day, government functions. President, which is sometimes called as white elephant, doesn't have that much power. But he can be very destructive. Self-cherishing attitude. Self-cherishing attitude here does not mean that you should not cherish yourself. Here when I say self-cherishing attitude in a negative sense, we are talking about a sense of self where you think only about yourself and completely ignore others. That kind of self-cherishing attitude. Now you need to do this election, dethrone the negative emotion party and enthrone the party of positive emotions. So who is going to be your President, Prime Minister? In place of self-cherishing attitude, you have altruism. The mind wishing to benefit all others. In place of ignorance, you will have wisdom. Wisdom understanding emptiness, wisdom understanding the way things are. These two should be elected. So when you meditate, when you reflect, then when these negative emotions are coming, anger is coming, jealousy is coming, hatred is coming, self-cherishing attitude is coming, what do you have to say? You need to put a sentry, guard, give them clear instruction. If these people are coming, don't let them come inside. And if you see them, then say them, As I said, mentioned this morning, gone are the days when you cheated me. Now I know who you are. Get lost. Don't say, get lost. A little bit forceful. And sometimes in the Buddhist text, there is even a mention of word saying that with these negative emotions, you can even develop hatred. They're not persons, they're emotions. So be forceful. Gone are the days. Just get lost. Right? All right? And then, in place of, as I mentioned, in place of ignorance, you develop wisdom, understanding reality, the way things are. So in other words, we are talking about developing two of the best of the minds. One is the wish to benefit all sentient beings. We call it bodhicitta, the wish to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So loosely translated, altruism. Then wisdom that sees the reality in general, especially sees the ultimate reality of emptiness. So that's the focus of our practice. Dethrone the negative emotions, enthrone the positive emotions. That is our practice. Right? Does it make sense? You feel a little bit sleepy? No. You want to get up? Huh? Yeah, get up. Stretch, do stretching a little bit and then sit down. If you want. Huh? Yeah. No, you can get up a little bit. Why not? Nobody is imprisoning us. Yeah. Get up a little bit. Good for your health. Exercise is very good for your brain. So in a day, even if you have very difficult office work where you need to sit on the chair before a computer for long hours, these days it is suggested that even if you get up, even if you are unable to do a lot of exercise, just get up after every hour. Makes huge difference in your body. It's really important. Very important. All right, sit down, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. You have a burning question?
The narratives of hell and heaven are the expression in emptiness,
Everything.
where nothing exists.
No.
So these are the expression of reality of illusion, correct?
Illusion doesn't mean they don't exist. Illusion means they don't exist as we think, but they exist. For example, if I see this as extremely beautiful, I don't know from where Tushita managed to get this one, so beautiful. The color matches a little bit the monk's clothes. It's so beautiful. So the beauty is primarily my projection, but it doesn't mean that it is not there. It is also there. So this is a little bit tricky. So therefore the very notion of I, not only in Buddhism but in the Western philosophy, they say the notion of I is a very slippery notion. It is there. It is a kind of, as we read this morning, it's continuous experiences based on which you talk about the person, the experience, the I. Apart from that, if you try to get hold of one concrete one, you will not be able to do it.
My confusion is that here is a box of tissue paper. It is in the layer of reality of physical world, it exists. My question is,
Yeah.
in that layer of our reality,
Yeah.
does hell and heaven really exist?
Similar.
Does it exist physically?
Of course. Just like this box, it exists.
Anybody has seen?
Huh?
Anybody has seen it?
Have you seen people suffering in Rwanda? In war zone areas, small kids who's has empty like a stomach, big head, very thin neck, nothing to eat, with going, there's hell. Hell doesn't have to be somewhere, special place where people are sent to punish. It's not like that. We do talk something like that, but hell and heaven primarily in your mind. There is a beautiful quotation by Shantideva in his Bodhisattva Way of Life where he says, "Who had prepared this burning iron ground?" These awful things that you see around are a result of your negative karma. Just as with the positive karma you are able to see in the Buddha realm and talk to the Buddha, meet the Bodhisattvas. Similarly with the negative attitude you see things, If you don't believe it, then you watch some of your experiences. For example, what kind of dreams do you get? Sometimes without any rhyme and reason you get very blissful, peaceful dream of moving into an unknown place where you enjoy so much. Don't you get such dream? Sometimes you get again the opposite of those things. Very fearful, things like that. I tell you one story. For example, once I was, many stories like that. Once I was living in New Delhi, in that small place where they have the Tibetan clinic in Nizamuddin. So I was staying with one Tibetan doctor, a very good doctor. He now passed away. So his bed was here, I was sleeping here. So around 2 p.m., the doctor suddenly got up. He said, "Wow!" Then I woke up and I said, "Amjila," which means doctor, what happened? What happened? See, because he also woke up, he's a little bit shy. He said, "Oh, nothing, he slept." So next morning during the breakfast, I asked, "Doctor, what happened?" He said, "I got this very dreadful dream of two huge iron-like black men catching two sides of his hand and dragging him and taking him somewhere. And he was saying, 'I don't want to go,' he's shouting." So the mind is so powerful, and we all have those experiences. You see, we all have those experiences. So in order to not to get nightmare tonight, or in order to not get such kind of awful dreams or awful life experiences, training the mind is the key. Sometimes you see, for example, he's already with great calmness of mind and joy and happiness. You see His Holiness Dalai Lama, that makes a big impact, and then for a few nights or in some cases few months, you get the dream, and you be so happy like that. Yeah.
Since you were talking about that example of a starving poor child in a war zone,
Yeah.
so how can that be the result of their karma or their past lives?
This is very good question, but we don't directly say this is a result of your karma. This is like, kicking the person who is already fallen. So in a skillful way, we don't say those things. But generally speaking, you have to accept. Now karma means not just one thing, karma and condition also. So those situations, the difficult situations, maybe one's past life karma, maybe the inaction of the government, maybe the flood and other things. So many things contribute to that. But they definitely come from certain causes and conditions. Yeah. Okay. So in the stages of training the mind. Now when we say training the mind, I don't know whether this word training is a good word. Transforming the mind, training the mind, anyway. Training the mind basically means making your mind attuned towards enlightenment. Taking your mind from negative emotions, transforming them into positive emotions. And therefore in those processes you need to develop awareness, mindfulness, meditation, contemplation, whatever you want to call it. All these things are needed. So now here, urging disciples to appreciate the preciousness of the life of leisure. That means not only you have got this human life, but you also have time. Preciousness of the life of leisure. So as I mentioned earlier, if you first of all you need to think a little bit about, use your common sense, think a little bit about the uniqueness of your human life. Its special capacity. Special capacity. Special capacity means eating, sleeping, having sex. Animals also do. I'm not saying you can't do those things, okay? But special capacity, the brain, the intelligence, which unfortunately remains unexplored. And it's understandable because our origin is animal. We were animals in the beginning. So we have inherited that brain. And because of this brain, then we are very good in developing, fighting and having sex. Animals do that. We have this brain with them. But that does not mean to say that we need to go like that. We need to not just remain as an animal, that we call ourselves human beings. So we really have to become real human beings. So in that case, training of the mind is precious. In order to train the mind, you need to know the preciousness of this human life. How many good things you can do with this human life, which animals, birds, other things can't do. And if you don't do anything good, then human life is a shameful life for me. Because for example, look at me, I'm using eyeglass. Have you seen birds wearing eyeglasses? Cows wearing eyeglasses? Cows riding cars and bikes? They don't. They lead a very simple life, live with the nature. They don't do pollution, things like that. They help removing the pollution. We have all these so-called facilities. And becoming biggest polluter, contributor to problem, difficulties. So therefore we need to change that. Right? It's very important. Preciousness of human life. How to take advantage of the precious life of leisure. Leisure means you have time. Don't say you have no time. If you say I have no time, it means you are not interested. If you say you are not interested, I lose nothing. I'm not here to promote Buddhism or things like that, but it is one's own personal, laws that you will say I'm not interested. Because right now, when we are a little bit young and capable and have certain facilities, then we think this is it. Then you don't see the importance of these inner qualities. But as soon as you grow older and face difficulties and challenges, then if you don't have these inner resources, you are done. And we were able to see that clearly during the COVID. Many people suffered from this COVID-19, and those who have inner resources, they fared much better. Those who don't have that, many of them died, many of them had a huge problem. And even in my case, some people called me, Geshe, I am very scared. I'm feeling very unhappy. Can you please tell me what to do? Because they have nothing inside. Is the person with whom you have to spend your rest of your life is who? Yourself. The person with whom you have to spend whole of your rest life is not your husband, not your wife, not your relative, not your brother. They may be good, I'm not saying they are bad, they may be good, but they will not spend their life, whole life with you. They will not be there with you everywhere you go. You are wherever you go. Your mind is wherever you go. So if you set that right, with the right attitude, patience, confidence, and health, and happiness, and calmness, you are everywhere you go, you are successful. No problem. And most of the problem that we are facing today is because we are not able to take care of ourselves properly. Instead of focusing within oneself, we are always following the orders of others, what they say. Come here, go there, you go there. Like a zombie. You are not master of yourself. So you need to empower yourself. Understand your potential, your capacity, and be happy with yourself. If you're not happy with yourself, you cannot be happy with anybody. Be happy with yourself. I live alone, for example. I'm not saying I'm special, anything like that, but just telling my story. I live alone. Not because I'm a special practitioner, but I'm a monk, and then the situation, many things, I live alone. And I give this kind of talks and teachings and attend interviews, things like that. So when I say these things, many people start thinking, okay, he's talking so much about happiness and things like that, but he himself may not be so happy. Yeah. So number of people ask me this question, Geshe, are you happy? Are you really happy? Number one, there's a reason to ask this question, because I'm a refugee, kicked out from my own country, right? So they say, Geshe, are you really happy? I said, yes, I'm happy. How can you be happy? Are you not alone? See? So then in today's world, to be happy means should have a husband, should have a wife, should have kids. Not knowing that they give you some happiness and a lot of trouble also. But anyway, I'm not against that, okay? There may be many good families also. So the point is, don't you live alone? Yes, I live alone. So how can you be happy? I'm happy, I live alone, I have so many books to read, I have so many things to do, I cook for myself, wash for myself, I'm very busy, not much time to get distracted, And when I want to sleep, I sleep, nobody disturbs me. And I have a place to live, and things to eat. What else I want? I'm happy. This is not because I'm a special practitioner, but I'm telling you the situation. When you are in such a situation, then based on my own experience, I'm telling you that to be with oneself is a very good thing. And the problem with the modern world, or today's world, not today's world, before also it is like this, is the problem with people is they don't know how to live with others and also don't know how to live alone. This is big tragedy. Either with compassion, with love, with harmony, you should know how to live happily with others. If you don't know that, live alone. वो भी नहीं कर सकता, ये भी नहीं कर सकता, फिर कहाँ होगा? Right? है ना? So you should, if possible, live happily with yourself and live happily with others. And also when we talk about living with others, making a relationship with others is not easy. So in terms of human relationship, your relationship should be like your relation with the fire. If you stay too close with the fire, it will burn you. If you stay too far away, you will not get the warmth of the fire, especially in winter. So human relationships are like that, you see. If you get too close, then problem arises. You did this to me, you did that to me, you spoke like this, you get problem. If you stay too away, then how are you going to help others? Right? So always there should be, as we say, the middle way. It's very important. Okay. So, recognizing the life of leisure endowment, considering the preciousness of life of leisure, contemplating the difficulty of obtaining a human life. The leisure means a life of leisure is free of the 8 unfavorable conditions. You have leisure, you have time, means you have this 8, you are free from, you don't have the 8 unfavorable conditions. You have time, you can practice, because the three unfortunate realms, you are not born as an animal, as a being in the hell, as a hungry ghost. You are not hungry ghost, right? You are not animal. You are not hell being. So that means you have time to do dharma practice. And long living God. Long living God is not the creator God, but in the six realms we talk about long living God, where there is so much facility and enjoyment, and the celestial, the gods and beings, they are so elegant, the men, women, everybody is handsome, beautiful, and have all the amenities, and then they forget about these practices. It's mentioned in the text. So sometimes I imagine this probably maybe the group of people in the Bollywood or Hollywood, something like that. And then it said just before they die, they get the signs where they are going to die. And they get certain symbols. They start sweating. Normally they don't sweat. And then the armpit odor also comes. And then they see where they are going to die. Then they get immense suffering, immense problem. I think this is true with the rich people also. You forget about it because you have all the so-called, servants and facilities, everything. Don't think about diet, don't talk about these resources, all matters. Everything that matters is, money and things like that. But certainly when you seize by a fatal disease. I heard this story of, there may be many such actual stories. I heard this story of a Chinese woman who spent a lot of money, built almost like a palace, castles, beautiful. Just before she moved, she was diagnosed as suffering from terminal cancer, and she was completely, shattered. So it happens. So the gods also. So you are not God, right? God, of course, you are not, but you may not be extremely rich and completely confused with your well-being, power. I don't think anybody here in this case. So you have time to practice dharma. The non-existence of the Buddha's teaching. If you are born in now this is probably purely from Buddhist way of teaching. If you are born in a place where where Buddha's teaching is not available, then how can you attend Buddha's teaching? You are attending. So you also have this opportunity. And birth in remote places as barbarians, very remote barbaric places. If you're born, you have no access to teaching, which is not the case. Being dumb or a simpleton, which you are not. And birth as someone holding wrong views of the Dharma. You are not holding wrong view. You may not know, but when I explain, you understand it. So that means you are attuned to the Dharma. So you have the time, you have the opportunity. So don't say you have no time. Next time, what I was thinking was, next time with this kind of practice, if you think I have no time, then you should also say, I have no time for breakfast. Don't eat. Can you do that? Sometimes, yes, you have to do, but generally speaking, occasionally you should do, okay, I have no time for breakfast, don't eat. I have no time to lunch, don't eat. I have no time to dinner, don't eat. Continuously starve yourself. Can you do that? When you can't do this for your body, how can you do this for your mind? How can you starve your mind by saying, I have no time, I have no time? You have time for many stupid things, unfortunately. I should not say you, we have time for many stupid things. So you need to curtail down, you need to see how you are living your life, what less important things you are doing. You need to curtail and do away with some of these less important things, replace it with some good things. In order to do that, you need to prepare a small place in your room for meditation. Just like reading room. Small, because that will then encourage you. Give some nice statues. If you are Buddhist, give some nice statues. Otherwise, some books to invite you to do those meditation. That's important. So it's important, we are ordinary human beings. So we need to find different ways to help us enable to do those practices. That's important. If you really become, highly realized, then you don't need anything. You don't need the scripture, you don't need the book. Then you go into the mountain alone. Clothes also you don't need. You go naked like Milarepa. He has nothing. Have you heard about Milarepa? How many of you heard about Milarepa? You are lucky. Because for us to be able to even hear the name of Milarepa is a big thing. And he is one example in Tibetan history who is said to have attained enlightenment in one lifetime. Read his story. When you read his story, you will cry, you will laugh, you will sing, you will dance, so many things. Right? So there are people who like that. Then not only you have the leisure, but you also have the facilities, endowments. Personal endowment and impersonal endowment. Personal endowment means you are a human number being. You are being born in Central Land, having all faculties intact, not having committed irreversible evil deeds. We all do certain small mistakes, but you have not committed any irreversible evil deeds, like killing one's father, killing one's mother. Have anybody done something like that? No. And having faith. Impersonal endowment means the impersonal endowments are the Buddha having come. The Buddha is not here, but His Holiness Dalai Lama is here, and Buddha's teaching is still him having taught Dharma, Buddhism having prevalence, the teaching having followers, and the teachers being compassionate for others. You have all these facilities, personal and impersonal. This human rebirth, having opportunity and facilities, can easily accomplish all the causes such as generosity, discipline, patience, that can obtain temporary goals such as the 3 higher rebirths, wealth and attendance, as well as the ultimate goal of enlightenment. This quality being present in none other than a human birth, one should appreciate its preciousness. So it's not only talking about becoming Buddha, achieving Nirvana. In this very life, you will become happy. You will become rich also. Even in terms of money, you will become rich also. You have a lot of money not because you earn a lot every month. It's not what you earn, but how you spend, how you live your life. There are many people who work like a donkey, make some money, and then they throw it for many stupid things. Drinking, gambling, whatever, So you can make your life happy. Minimalism, as they call it these days. Right? You're happy. Right? There is a story in Nagarjuna's text called Letter to a Friend. Nagarjuna, very famous Indian teacher, he wrote a letter to his friend who was a king. You should read those books. So here he talks about this accumulation of wealth. He says, yes, you need wealth, but if you have more than what you need, it will become a problem. It will become the focus of the thieves, the robbers. And he gives example by saying, the king of Nagas, which basically means king of snakes, serpents. The king of Naga is said to have many heads. The ordinary Nagas or snakes, they have just one head. So comparing to those snakes having one head, the king Naga having many heads looks grand, right? He's said to have 5 heads. But the problem is, the more head you have, the more it is susceptible to injury. This head may be okay today, but this head is not okay. Similarly, in our case also, if you have like 10 brothers, 10 sisters, at a superficial glance it looks good. But the problem is, nothing comes value free. Today this brother is good, this sister is not well. The sister is well, this one is not well. Right? So similarly, wealth, the more you have problem. So it is important to have some sense of contentment, keeping in mind the limitation of natural resources, and also keeping in mind your convenience and comfortable life. And then it says the human life, that the precious human life that we have did not come like that. Contemplating the difficulty of obtaining a human rebirth. The possibility of gaining such a leisurely rebirth is such that one migrating from one miserable realm to another after death is similar in number of the dust particles of the great earth. So it is like, if you compare, as I mentioned, we think that okay, we have a huge population. Yes, we have, but comparing to many other types of sentient beings, still it is very less, very less. And then the more important thing is that if we use this precious brain and intelligence in the right way, then those who are able to use in that way is very negligible. So therefore, appreciate that. Okay. This I mentioned already. Now the next point is okay, the next point is, although we have obtained this very precious human life, how long this is going to last? As I already mentioned, it's not going to last very long. So, while you have this opportunity, and especially while you are young, when the time to do Dharma practice is when you are young, when your energy is strong, when the flow of the wind and the blood circulation, when everything is good, that is the time to do Dharma practice, especially some of the tantric practices, yogic practices, right? So don't think that these religious practices should be done when you have nothing else to do, when you become old and unable to look after your family life. Many people think like that. That is wrong. Okay. So the point that I was making was that although this is very precious, but it is not going to last long, right? So therefore, because it is impermanent, therefore now next thing is you need to think about the imminence of death. Contemplating the inevitability of the end of the present life shortly, not very long. Why? 4 parts. Number 1, the defect of not contemplating. So therefore, there are 4 points that you need to contemplate. Number 1, the defect or fault of not contemplating the inevitability of death. Although everyone has this feeling that ultimately we are going to die, each day we still have a defensive inner mind that says, not dying today. Not dying today. As I mentioned earlier, not dying today. Not dying at least this time. And this is in the Western sense of the term, this is called the law of death denial. So therefore we need to meditate on our common mortality. Not dying today, not also today, even when we are on our deathbeds. Instead of countering these feelings, we let these thoughts obscure our minds, which gives rise to the desire to live for this life. It does not allow us to analyze future lives, liberation, enlightenment, or any other bigger matter, and it therefore prevents the development of the thought of spiritual practice. This way, even if hundreds of acts of listening, studying, and meditation are performed, the merits accumulated from this will only serve this life, not for the long future lives. Distracted by gossip, we should find out how much time we spend gossiping, idle chatter. He went up, she went down, Distracted by gossip, ignorance, food and drink, etc., one cannot carry out the proper practice, and every virtuous deeds will not last long. Our hope for a long life brings an immense desire for wealth and fame, and suspicious of obstruction to our acquisition of them will make one hostile. Not knowing the defects of these desires, will generate ignorance, and this breeds a stream of afflictive emotions such as pride and jealousy and other extremely afflictive subsidiary delusions. Moreover, one will accumulate many negative actions such as the 10 non-virtuous deeds, the 5 heinous crimes, the misdeeds of abandoning the Dharma and the like. This will drag one to intense suffering such as rebirth in the lower realms. There is a old Indian story of a gentleman who lived 1,000 years. So when he completed his 1,000 years of life, the messenger of death came and he said, "You lived too long. You are now 1,000 years. You need to go." And in the course of his 1,000 years of his life, he had married 100 women who bore 100 children. So to the messenger of death, he said, "Yes, I know I am 1,000 years old, but I want to live." This is what we all saying, "I want to live. I want to live. So in place of me, take one of my children." He tells this to the messenger of the death. Then he goes to the eldest one. He also says the same thing. Go to the next one, go to the next one. Then finally he goes to the youngest one who was only 16 years old. You know what this 16-year-old boy said? Very happily he said, yes, I want to go. The messenger of death was surprised and shocked. How come that your father don't want to go, all your elder brothers don't want to go, and you are so excited, why you want to go? He said, if my father and brothers, having lived so long, did not get anything, I don't think I am going to get anything. So this is the story. So we have this desire to live long, but just by living long we don't get anything, as I just read. You see? And with this desire to live long for mundane activities, enjoyments, you don't do your spiritual practice properly, right? And then you go empty-handed. Second point is the benefit of contemplating the inevitability of death. If one can develop a genuine contemplation of the inevitable nature of death, even if one is going to die today or tomorrow, someone with a modest knowledge of the Dharma will see no use in clinging to loved ones or material wealth. See, someone with a modest knowledge of Dharma, even with someone with a modest knowledge of Dharma, will not see no use in clinging to loved ones or material wealth. So here we are not saying don't love your brothers and sisters, don't love your husband, wife. We are not saying that. Clinging. Love everybody. Unconditional love, not business love. Unfortunately, the most of the love that we talk about is business love. I love you so long as you love me. Business love. This is not what is taught in Buddhism. Buddhism is talking about unconditional love. Whether they love you or not, I love you because I know you need love. I know you need support. Right? So therefore, with this kind of knowledge, you will love everybody, but no attachment, no clinging. This is very important demarcation. Love, as I mentioned with the human relationship, love a little bit from a distance, something like that. It's very important. Someone with a modest knowledge of the Dharma will see no use in clinging to loved ones or material wealth, and most of them will have a spontaneous will to make the most of this life through giving and such. You can make your life meaningful only by helping others, not accumulating. There is nothing of greater value than seeing worldly concerns such as fame and riches as meaningless, as chaff tossed in the air, or as a source of deception, and instead engaging in positive activities. So all this worldly fames, praises and defamation, all these are meaningless. Source of deception. And instead engaging in positive activities like taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and observing ethical discipline at all times with diligence rather than negative deeds. This way, what can be more meaningful than reading oneself of the useless body, turning it into a genuinely significant one, and lifting oneself and other sentient beings to an excellent state. So there Shantideva says, if you hire a servant who does the house, chores, right? Will you let that servant relax and take tea and eat food and take the salary and do nothing? Will you keep such a servant in your house? No. That is exactly what Shantideva says. This body, your body, which you are feeding every day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, washing the clothes, washing the body, after serving this body so much, spending so much time to serve this body, make this body useful. Just as you would not give any gift to the servant who does not do any work. So this body, if it is not doing any useful, positive, virtuous practices, why you are feeding this body all the time? That's what Shantideva says. Therefore, contemplation on the inevitable nature of death is the great gateway towards eliminating all delusions and demerits of wrong deeds and achieving all positivity simultaneously. Third, the kind of mind necessary to generate contemplation of the inevitability of death. For fear of being unable to stop the causes of rebirth in the lower realms and obtain the causes of rebirth in the higher realms and definite goodness, one should fear death. Fear means fear in that sense. Having contemplated this, since there is a way to achieve these two aims, one will know not to be afraid on the brink of death. However, if these aims are not accomplished, one cannot be liberated from cyclic existence, and worse, one dies with the fear of being born in the lower realms. Therefore, a frequent recollection of the fact that one is quickly parted from wealth and life of impermanence of things helps one to counter the fear of losing life and wealth, and soon one will be free of the suffering of dying. So when it comes to doing dharma practice, you need to act a little bit differently. You need to be a little bit bold. मैं ऐसा करने से मेरा पड़ोसी क्या बोलेगा, ऐसा सोचने से फिर तरक्की नहीं होगा. If you think, okay, if I do it like this, then what my neighbors will say, what my colleagues will think, then you will continue like that. If you want to live and continue like the majority of the people, then where will you go? Where will you go? I'll tell you a story here also. Somebody said, there is no need to worry in life. There is no need to worry in life because either you will remain healthy or you will become sick. If you remain healthy, no need to worry, right? But if you become sick, then this is something we need to think about. But again here, if you become sick, there are two possibilities. Either you will die or you will recover. If you recover, no need to worry. If you die, this is something to think about. Now if you die, either you will go to hell or into heaven. If you go to heaven, of course no need to worry, right? If you go to hell, also no need to worry because all your friends have already reached there. They are waiting, they are saying, hello, when did you come? Come for a cup of tea or breakfast, lunch, dinner, things like that. So the point that I'm making is, if you lead like the majority of the people, ignorant people, I'm talking about serious practice, I'm not saying majority of the people bad or anything like that, then you will reach wherever it is. So there's the thing. So if you really want to do something differently, you have to have that kind of dedication. Now question is how to contemplate the inevitability of death. This is three parts. Contemplating the certainty of death. Number one, certainty of death. Death is definite for everybody. Think about that. There's no exception whether you are king or president, prime minister. So this is, for me, this is very comforting, the certainty of death. At least some of these dictators, their time is also numbered. They will also go. They will not stay forever making us trouble. So I pay respect to the law of nature. Contemplating the certainty of death, definiteness of death. The time of death is, the death is definite, but the time of death is indefinite. That's the problem. So that's the reason you need to remain prepared all the time. If you know your enemy is coming and you don't know when it's coming, you need to remain prepared. Like that. So you cannot say, I have not completed my project. I'm not going to die. The Lord of death or death will not see whether you have finished your work or not finished your work. Then third is contemplating the fact that at the time of the death nothing but the practice of dharma can help. So at the time of the death, all the wealth that you accumulated is of no help. All the name that you have accumulated is of no name and fame and riches that you have accumulated over the years is of no benefit. And what is good, what is beneficial is if you have trained your mind, developed these inner resources, then you will find your way. Now here in this case, one very important point that I want to mention and you should remember is, therefore in Buddhism, the real practice should be done by the mind, not by the sense consciousnesses or not by the senses. Because it is this mental consciousness and especially the subtle mental consciousness. Because it is the subtle mental consciousness which goes to the next life, not the sense consciousness. Therefore, meditation is important. Go within and make your mind habituated with those practices. Train the mind with compassion, with love, with patience, with contentment, all the good things. Right? Right? Then you will be happy, not only in this life but for many, many lives to come. So that is the real master plan. More than 5-year plan or 10-year plan, it's many eons plan that must be done. Now, why we say death is definite? Death is definite because when death comes, nothing can prevent it. Is there anything? Artificial intelligence can prevent it? They call it super AI, super artificial intelligence may be able to prevent it. We have 3 types of artificial intelligence: narrow artificial intelligence, then finally the super artificial intelligence, which is said to be more intelligent than human mind. Second, contemplating the fact that life cannot be extended but rather constantly diminishes. Yes, in Buddhism also there are certain tantric empowerment initiations. If you do those practices, properly, then your life can be extended a little bit. And then on a very high realization, maybe you never die. That is possible, but generally speaking, not possible. But with every passing hour, month, year, life is ebbing out. It's running out. Even right now, while we are talking, it's going. It's amazing. Now if you see the ticking of the clock, yesterday morning I just watched how many people are dying. 40,000 something was dying. They died in that very day. That's the story. Every day 40,000 people died in that very day. So these days you can see all those things. And then contemplating the fact that even though one is alive, one might die without being able to practice the Dharma. Then contemplating the fact that when death comes, nothing can prevent it. Death is inevitable for all forms of life. Wherever one lives, death comes. It is not that people die in India and not in America. Many people are moving to Western foreign countries, but there is no escape from death. There is no difference in the fact that death always subdues sentient beings. There is no running away from death. It cannot be challenged by prayers, maybe of some help, but you cannot challenge. As the Kamaba great teacher says, although we should live with the fear of death and die without it, contrastingly, we do not fear it now, while at the time of death, so we do the opposite. If you fear death right now in practice, then at the time of death you don't have to fear, but we do the opposite. Right now we have no fear, at the time of death we have a lot of fear. Because when you die, then when the 4 or 5 elements dissolve into another, one another, finally into the consciousness, then people get all these different visions. There are some people who say, okay, now please help me, now I am sinking into a pit of fire. Things like that happen, right? Contemplating the fact that life cannot be extended but rather constantly diminishes. Life passes very quickly. Years dwindle into months, months into weeks, weeks into days, and days into hours. Seen in this way, it becomes obvious that life is brief, that half of it is already spent. There is a Tibetan teacher who asked his students, are you really practicing, are you studying? He said, yes sir. Then the teacher scolded him by saying, don't tell lie. I saw you sleeping the whole night, and in the day you remain distracted. When do you get time to practice? It's like that. Half of our life is spent sleeping. But if you know how to practice, even while sleeping, you can do practice. Right? Then third, contemplating the fact that even though one is alive, one might die without being able to practice the Dharma. As a large part of our lives has already passed without much meaning, and of what remains, half will be spent in sleep. A good part of it will be spent eating and dressing, and part will be consumed by illness and distraction. Distraction is a big hurdle. We can suppose there are only about 5 years left to us that we can dedicate to spiritual practices. All the wealth that one accumulates in this life will turn into just a memory of the time at the time of death, as if one were waking up from a pleasurable dream. But the enemy, death, comes, and we are unable to stop it. So, concluding that there is no reason to be deceived by the delusion of this life, decide to practice the Dharma and repeatedly promise to do it. Next, contemplating the uncertainty of the time of the death. Contemplating the life in Jambudeva is said to be one part of world, said to have some certainty of duration of life. The worldly people like us, there is no certainty. Second, contemplating the fact that the causes of life are very few, while the causes of death are numerous. Now, for example, in today's world, we live in a time of great science and material technology and material facilities, and we do say, people have prolonged their life, right? Prolonged our life. In ancient times, yesterday somebody asked a very funny question in the science conference. He said, in 2-3 generations before, people lived around 50 something. At that time there was no junk food. A very funny monk. And then he said, today people say don't eat junk food, this, that, people are living very long life. So he asked that kind of question, but this is kind of incomplete question, because eating junk food did not make us live long. There are many other factors that made us live long, right? But still, if you use this technological material facilities properly, plus we do some of these spiritual practices, plus we live natural way of life, I think we can live very long today. Otherwise, you may look like healthy, but there's train accident, aeroplane accident, how many people die? Those things were not there earlier. So now many of the so-called facilities, then junk food of course, are sources of our quick death. And then now you count the causes of death, cancer, HIV, and what other, so many dreadful diseases are there. And many of these dreadful diseases come because of our wrong ways of lifestyle, wrong ways of thinking, and our very bad relationship with other animals. And during the COVID-19, I was reading some text where it said almost like 60% of our human diseases are as a result of our misadventure with animals. Right? So these things should be contemplated. So still there are many causes for death. Contemplating that life is very fragile, of course, and that the time of death is never certain. Life is very fragile. Impermanent is one thing, very fragile is another thing. And I tell this story here. You know, in the modern packaging system, everything that is fragile is packed nicely. Not only it is packed nicely, but we write something on it saying fragile, handle carefully. When you send it in the aeroplane cargo or something like that, right? So taking this clue from the modern packaging system, we can clearly understand that human life is very fragile, because if you look at the body, it's packed very nicely. Outside the skin, flesh, then some ribs and bones, and inside all the fragile things. Internal organs are extremely, the lungs, the heart, the kidneys, extremely fragile. So therefore, I decided to prepare countless placards and put them on everybody. I am fragile, please handle me carefully. Does it make sense? Fragile. So that means really, like, once you understand this fragility, you should handle others carefully, handle yourself carefully. That's the point. Okay, now I don't think there are so many things to read. I don't probably no need to read everything. I want to read this part, which is more easily understandable. Most of us spend, this is written by a modern writer. Most of us spend our lives avoiding the thought of death. This is not from Lamrim, okay? You know, to support this thinking, I'm quoting from modern writers. Most of us spend our lives avoiding the thought of death. Instead, the inevitability of death should be continually on our mind. Exactly like what the Buddha said. It should be there on our mind. Because then it will become source of doing many good things. Understanding the shortness of life fills us with a sense of purpose and urgency to realize our goals. Right? Training ourselves to confront and accept this reality makes it easier to manage the inevitable setbacks, separations, and crises in life, which happens all the time. It gives us a sense of proportion of what really matters in this brief existence of ours. Most people continually look for ways to separate themselves from others and feel superior. Instead, we must see the mortality in everyone. That's what I was speaking about. How it equalizes and connects us all. We are just like a flock of, sheep taken to the place of execution. By becoming deeply aware of our mortality, we intensify our experience of every aspect of life. Right? The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. The whole future lies in uncertainty. Therefore, live immediately. Live in the present. These are some beautiful comments. Okay. So some questions, few questions. Not much time is left. Yes.
Is there a thing called untimely death?
Huh?
Is there a thing called untimely death?
Yeah. Because with the death, people can die because of consumption of merit. People can die because their lifespan has come to an end. People can die because of accidents, right? Because death can come, as I mentioned, because of the span of life has finished, that is one thing. But there are many factors, contributing factors, like accidents, eating wrong food, things like that. So that we call it untimely death, because you can actually live longer, but because of your unhealthy way of life, you die untimely. Yeah. Yeah.
Buddhism prescribes a critical attitude, right?
Huh?
To everything. Use your logic, your analytical mind, and don't take the teachings at face value that the Buddha himself said, like, test this for yourself.
Yeah.
Why should anybody subscribe to the notion of karma in that regard? Like, is there any evidence there that,
Here you need to understand the meaning of karma. Karma basically means action. So whatever acts or actions you do, you will get similar result. That's karma. So that's not necessarily obscure, something you can understand. For example, if you want something, paperwork done by tomorrow, you need to work today. You need to take that action, and tomorrow you'll get the paper or something like that. So there are many different. So this is a good question, because many people think karma has a fatalistic notion that your fate is determined. That's not the case. Karma means action. Your today's action will affect tomorrow. Your morning's action will affect evening's experience. Okay? Yeah?
But it extends to other lives as well.
Other lives as well. Yeah. Other lives as well, because you do so many actions and leave an imprint. They remain dormant in the mind, and with the passage of time, depending upon which powerful conditions are encountered, so sometimes the result of some actions bear fruit fast, some takes many lives. Okay? Yeah.
So if there's no fate and we have control over our karma through purification and these kind of things, how is it that an omniscient Buddha can see our future if we are the ones that can change it in any moment?
We are the ones what?
Like if I can change my karma,
Yeah.
how is it that
Buddha knows that this guy can change his karma.
So
This guy is very hard working. He's going to change his karma, and thereby he's going to experience this result.
So it is. So it is already written, really.
It is already written.
It's predetermined. Everybody.
This is a big area of debate. It's not that easy, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The very meaning of omniscience, somebody knowing everything, is a big question, But this is what he said. When we say Buddha is omniscient, we are saying any field of knowledge, he knows it. Now this is a big question. The possibility, I'll point towards possibility. The possibility is there is a difference between training the body and training the mind. When you train the body, you are training a physical object. So however much training you give, the progress will be limited. For example, if you take the example of the world's #1 gold medalist in long jump, let us say. So he's world's gold medalist #1. In addition to that, let us say he does some more practices. Hopefully there may be a little bit more progress. He may be able to jump a little bit longer. But it will never happen that this guy is now jumping from one mountain to another mountain. He's world's #1 gold medalist, now he's jumping from one mountain to another mountain. Have you heard something like that? It is not possible. Similarly, if you boil water, cold water, it will become hotter than 100-degree boiling point. Still you boil it, then what happens? It changes into vapor. It will not become hotter. Because the basis is material, physical. Unlike this material, physical objects, the mind is non-physical. So you can train it as much as possible and make unlimited progress. So this shows the possibilities of becoming completely enlightened. But it's easier said than done, yeah.
So concerning mortality and death, since you said that we must accept, or we must be prepared that we might die any second.
Yeah.
So I do think that is exactly why so many people live in fight or flight mode, or at least humans. And I think that is the reason why humans live in fight or flight mode, or why they like to collect things or get attached to things, because they are afraid of death.
True.
Afraid life is limited and short.
Yeah.
So how do we find? So if we're supposed to accept death and be like, how do we have a good relationship with it?
No. This is a very good question, because the ordinary way of the survival instinct with the fight and flight mode is the animal way of doing things. It's simply for survival. It's not for expansion of your mind, transforming your mind, doing good for others. It's just for one's own survival. So we are now not talking about that. We are now talking about living a life, adopting a lifestyle where you are happy, others happy. We are not saying that you don't work hard, don't make money, don't make relationship. We are not saying that. Make healthy relationship, lead healthy lifestyle. That's the difference. In the other case, like the animals, they don't have sense of good and bad. They simply want to continue their lineage. That's the difference. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Earlier I said about that the 5 elements dissolve
Yeah.
into consciousness.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on this? Like what is when the body dissolves? What is left?
No, this comes in the Buddhist tantric practice. It says when we enter into the process of death, then the dissolution takes place. Dissolution means we are basically made up of 4 or 5 elements. So when you start, entering into the process of death, then the earth, the solid parts, dissolve into water. The water, the liquid part, dissolves into fire. Fire dissolves into wind energy. Wind dissolves into subtle consciousness. Okay? That's the meaning. Now, dissolving means you see the physical signs, like collapsing of the nostrils, and then the liquid disappearing, and the heat going from the body. So those things.
Okay, and what is it that is left that moves on to the next body?
Yeah, then when finally the bodily part is disintegrated, then the mind enters into what we call as the luminous clear light. And now when you enter into this, if you are a good spiritual practitioner, then to some extent you can choose your next rebirth. If you are not, then you undergo the ordinary process of taking another life. Then you go into what we call as intermediate state, pardo we call it. Then it's just consciousness, pure consciousness, looking for a next rebirth. Just like you coming from different places, looking for a guest house here. So the consciousness is looking, and then the consciousness is looking for a guest house. Then they see the meeting of the future father and mother, with whom that consciousness, intermediate state being, has connection. Because of this karmic connection, when he sees this future parent meeting, he sees it as a beautiful garden, something to go, and stay there, or sometimes he develops some kind of disliking, whatever. So when he develops this liking, he goes there and gets stuck there, in the sperm and the egg and the, what you call it? Yeah, sperm and egg. So that sperm and egg forms the body, and the consciousness is that consciousness. Okay? Yes? Oh, I was just looking on this word. Yes?
Are there certain practices we can do to help someone in the bardo state while he's looking?
Yeah. There are practices that you should do when you are dying. There are practices that when for the people entering into the intermediate state. There is in fact a whole text called Liberation Through Hearing in the Pardo state. Some of this text is available in English. You should read it. Pardo Thudul. Yeah. Yes.
So we spoke about like positive and negative,
Yeah.
and good thoughts and bad thoughts,
Yeah.
karma, bad.
Yeah.
So is it always a duality, or is there like a gray space?
Huh?
Is there a gray space, neutral balance between?
Yeah, neutral also. Yeah, neutral also. If you don't say anything, if you don't think anything bad, you don't think anything good, it's neutral. The mind is still there.
But in terms of thoughts,
Thought also. It's not necessary that you're always thinking good things. It's not necessary that you're always thinking bad things. Sometimes your mind is neutral. Yeah.
But the reality of emptiness
Yeah.
is beyond all these gunas, right? Those gunas like
No, it's
bad,
it's
and
not.
neutral.
No, it's not talking about good, bad, anything. Emptiness is just the way things are. Reality. Like for example, impermanence is nothing good, nothing bad. It's the way things are. Similarly, emptiness is nothing good, nothing bad. It's the way things are. It's the ultimate reality. Now we need to develop these positive things and shun those negative things with this understanding of impermanence, with the understanding of shunyata. That will help you. Yeah.
When we come here for the courses,
Yeah.
the environment is different and the enrichment is better.
Yeah, of course.
When you go back,
Yeah.
meditation is one thing you can do.
Yeah.
But do you have any other practical suggestions that when you go back to normal life, what other things can be done? Because there's
I have very good advice there. Think globally, act locally. In other words, talking about world peace is easy. The problem is the next door neighbor. So that's why in Buddhist meditation we have the practice called meditative session and post-meditative session. During the meditative session which you are doing in the mornings or evenings, it's not that difficult. You may be doing proper meditation, not proper meditation, nobody knows, but you will sit there quietly, looks nice, happy and peaceful, nobody is bothering you. So it's okay, looks good. But the problem is the post-meditative session. When you get up from meditation and go to Megalodganj, meet and talk to these strange, sometimes very strange people who provoke them, shopkeepers who provoke them, things like that, then that is the place where you to test how good you have charged your battery. Meditation is like charging the battery. Having charged the battery, you should use it when you go into darkness, not when there is a broad light. So now when you go back and resume your ordinary work, meet with the families, there you need to then, if you are able to practice there, you are successful. Yeah.
There is a theory that says that whenever we reincarnate, it's like there is an intention to learn something. So for example, if my energy, my continuum wants to learn about getting rid of jealousy, I will choose a life full of this kind of energy. What Buddhism believes about that?
No, I don't think there will be any special thing, but first you need to understand the difference between reincarnation, rebirth and emanation. Okay? Reincarnation is a term, although I'm not so sure this is the English term. Rebirth is there for everybody. Whether you like it or not, you have to come back. There's no escape. Many stupid people, they think, oh, life is so difficult, full of problems, I'll commit suicide. That's not end of life. You are just torturing, eliminating your body, but how are you going to eliminate your mind? Especially with the fear that you are creating upon yourself. So that's not the solution. The mind will continue and come back, die, continue, until you eliminate negative emotions and contaminate actions. Your life will be projected again and again with the forces of the contaminated action and afflictive emotions. And depending upon the intensity of these causes, you may be born as a human being, not necessarily as a human being all the time, maybe cow, maybe dog, maybe bird, whatever. That's rebirth. Now reincarnation means people who come back into this world, not because of the force of negative emotion and contaminated action, but out of compassion, who can choose their life. So there probably your question is related to theirs. So they may choose different areas where they are more beneficial, more useful. For example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Now these days, his reincarnation is hot topic right now, because Chinese government is saying that the Dalai Lama will be born only in China. Why this sudden love for the reincarnation? One who had for so many years destroyed Buddhism. Why talking about reincarnation? Politics, geopolitics. So anyway, His Holiness, as a response to this, hopefully not geopolitics, he is saying, if I am born, my reincarnation will be born in a free country. That relates to your question. Free country means the purpose of reincarnation is to be able to serve other people. So there should be opportunity to serve other people, not in a dictatorial system where they choose somebody like the pension reincarnation which they chose, and then now he has become a political, puppet, taking around for ceremonial shows, things like that. So therefore the reincarnation can come for different specific purposes. Yeah. Emanation means not necessarily just a person. Emanation, at one time you can have 3, 4, 5, 6, 1,000 emanations. And you can also emanate yourself as a piece of bread for hungry people, as a bridge, people to cross this ocean. All those things are possible.
So you don't have a body?
Huh?
So you don't have a body?
Don't have?
A body.
You can have a body. Yeah, you can have a body, yes. In the form of a body. If I say piece of bread, it has a body, right? This is complex, yeah?
But that's all in one lifetime? You can change?
No, emanations, they can emanate many forms.
In one lifetime?
In one lifetime, yeah. Okay, yeah.
This gentleman had his hand up for ages.
Huh?
No, I just wanted to ask, you previously mentioned the notion of I as a slippery notion.
Huh?
You mentioned previously.
Yeah, it's very slippery notion. If you can catch, tell me, please. The slippery notion means, for example, are you seeing Geshe Lhakdor talking? Do you see me talking?
I think so.
You think so? No, you're not so sure. So it's already slippery. You think so, not so sure. Are you sure that you see me? Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, huh? But you're wrong. What you are seeing is my body, not me. I cannot be beholden by the eye. The eye is designated to the body and the mind. It is not the body, it's the mind. What you are seeing is my body, not mind. So where is I? It's not only question of I, everything is slippery, everything. For example, you call this book, right? Is this a book? Is this a book?
For communication purposes, yeah.
No. Just don't. Don't beat about the bush. Just come on. Come to the point. Is this a book?
Yes.
This is a book. Okay, if I tear the covers apart and have only this one, is this still a book?
Part of the book.
No, I'm just asking, you say yes or no. Is this a book?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'll take more papers out. Then you have only this one. Is this a book? So the point is, if you really analyze where is this book, it's just a designation.
So you're saying I is also a designation?
Exactly, everything slippery in that sense.
Yeah.
So this is amazing, confusing, Things function like that, you see. And then the fact is that although this is the reality, it's just designation, to our unenlightened mind, we don't see it that way. We think there is a concrete book existing from its own side. There is a beautiful woman with whom I can stay forever. There is a handsome person, I'll live forever, never die. This is the problem. And then suddenly when that thing changes, you are mesmerized, you are shocked. I never thought this will happen.
Even if it's impermanent, wouldn't you say love and romantic relationships is a big part of fulfilling life, even though it is fleeting?
Yeah, the worldly way of life, yes. Worldly way of, I'm not talking about worldly way of life. In the worldly way of things, it's very powerful. That's why the spiritual teachings can't bring about big changes, because they think this is wonderful, this is amazing, this is good. So therefore Buddha also had to say that the worldly people are fighting against me. I'm not fighting against the worldly people, because I accept what the worldly people are doing. He's not insane. He's not saying something which is, out of the law of nature. He's speaking the truth, but the truth is so profound that ordinary people have no time, no patience to go into these things. So they play with those small things. It's like they're like small kids playing, give them some toys, broken toys. They'll spend the whole day playing there. As a grown person, why you spend the whole day playing there? Study. You're supposed to be now more enlightened. This is exactly what the Buddha is saying. Right? The kids will say, no, I want to play. This is my life. This is amazing. And there's a beautiful example given in these 400 verses by Arya Deva, where it says, if there are a group of small kids playing by the side of the seashore and building sand castles, one child builds a sand castle, and having built that sand castle, he thinks this is a real castle. Another naughty boy comes and gives a kick and dismantles that sand castle. He cries as if a real castle has been destroyed. This is how we so-called grown-up people also think. So therefore, if you think, here now there's different ways of thinking. One is, we are not saying you are stupid, you are useless. We are not saying anything like that. We are not saying don't enjoy, don't marry. We are not saying that. Especially in Buddhism, we never say marriage is bad or sex is bad. We don't say that. We understand all this. But what we are saying is, if you are looking for more reliable, long-lasting happiness, this will not bring long-lasting happiness. If you don't understand reality, then this relationship which you think is very good, the relationship also will sever. It also will change. It also has to stop. The life will also change. You will also face death. So what are you going to do at that time? So people who don't know this, they think, okay, I'll live with this person forever, I'll enjoy, I'll live in this house forever, enjoy. Then suddenly all these things change. You're completely shocked, no way how to deal with it. So therefore, Buddha is teaching how to deal with these difficulties and situations, number one. And number two, go a little bit higher stage where you have more reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness. Okay?
Geshe Lhakdor, you're just touching briefly on the topic of the non-self. Earlier, you touched briefly on emptiness, also on impermanence, and also on suffering. It seems to me that these are different labels to describe the same fundamental truth of reality.
Yeah. Okay, stop. Stop.